Where's Omega? Who is Omega? Why is Omega? I know!
What's the purpose of this?
Sounds silly enough, but these are legitimate questions being asked by the Star Wars fandom after Episode 1 of The Bad Batch.
Oh man, what'd we miss now?
Brand spanking new to the Star Wars universe is Omega, a clone who is surrounded by mystery. For one, she's a defective clone, much like Clone Force 99. Secondly, she may be Force sensitive. So again, who is Omega and why? Why, if Omega is a Force-sensitive clone, would a Force-sensitive clone exist? And what does this mean for the future of Star Wars? That's what we're going to answer today.
We've got company.
1. First question we should answer. Is Omega Force-sensitive? While we haven't seen her Force choke an ally like Baby Yoda, sorry Grogu, there are some things that she has done that raise suspicions.
Keeps getting weirder and weirder.
In Episode 1 of The Bad Batch, while all the good brothers of Clone Force 99 rot away in a holding cell, Omega senses something is off with Crosshair. Now, clones do exhibit the tendency to understand one another's feelings as they share the same DNA, but this case seems entirely different. After Crosshair and Hunter get into it, Omega directly states that Crosshair is angry, which is pretty obvious. However, she takes things a step further when she comments that she knows what he's about to do, and whatever that thing is, please don't do it. She follows this up after Crosshair belittlingly asks, "What do you know?" She responds with, "I know it's not your fault, and you can't help it." On one side, we could say that due to her knowledge of the inhibitor chips, and Omega knows that Crosshair is fighting an internal battle between himself and the chip. However, to me, this scene makes it seem like Omega is peering into the Force due to her explicitly stating that she knows what Crosshair is going to do. The question of her Force sensitivity pops up again later, when she shoots Crosshair's weapon out of his hand on her first attempt. By that I mean first time shooting anything, ever. This is another moment that could be explained by the fact that Omega is a Jango Fett clone. But clones receive tons of training before being battle ready. Omega had none. So the question remains, did Omega unknowingly use the Force to guide her aim? As of Episode 2, we haven't gotten much more information towards this theory or further explanation of her Episode 1 feats. However, her being a Force-sensitive clone isn't too far out there when we know of another Force-sensitive clone with, let's just say, unlimited power. 2. Long before Omega's inception, Force-sensitive clones have always been lurking about Star Wars history, although very rarely. In Star Wars Legends, Force-sensitive cloning was widely believed to be impossible due to the instability that came with high midichlorian counts. However, this idea was challenged by the creation of X1 and X2, two prototype Force-sensitive clones created by the Kaminoans. In the critically acclaimed Force Unleashed video game series, Galen Marek, or Starkiller, was another subject who was successfully cloned by none other than Darth Vader. In Star Wars canon, Force-sensitive cloning is a can of worms already ripped open. We just need the juicy details of how it all works. In the final film of the Skywalker Saga, The Rise of Skywalker, we learn that good old Palpatine never bit the dust. Rather, he used the ancient Sith technique called essence transfer to transfer his consciousness and soul to a new clone body created sometime during the original trilogy, or perhaps even before in the prequels. This information is unknown, but what we do know is that this body was weak and frail. From what we know now in The Mandalorian, other attempts to create Force-sensitive clones were made, but failed, resulting in clones such as Rey's father, who had zero connection to the Force. Snoke is another example of creating a Force-sensitive individual. If you remember, Snoke was actually a genetic strand cast imbued with Force abilities, created to act as Palpatine's proxy in his absence. If Omega is a Force-sensitive clone, this would make her the third one in Star Wars canon, but possibly also the first. What this means is she could provide those details to how Force-sensitive cloning works. However, if she is a successful Force-sensitive clone, then why did Palpatine fail at creating his own? Why was Snoke a compiled mess of DNA when Omega was seemingly created from one strand of DNA, Jango Fett? What is Omega's true history, and what does her presence now mean for the future of Star Wars? I guess it's time to answer the why is Omega question. If Omega is Force-sensitive, why was she created? In The Bad Batch, we saw bad blood beginning to brew between the Kaminoans and the newly formed Empire. Given Kamino's role in the execution of Order 66, it can be assumed that they knew what was coming and created Omega in advance as a form of leverage, or collateral, over the Empire. Given the timeline of events, though, I'm a huge believer that if Omega is Force-sensitive, she was created to be Palpatine's body if time ever came. In the novel Star Wars Aftermath: Empire's End, we learn, long before the guy named himself Emperor, Palpatine was already in the works of building the First Order by sending Sith artifacts, advanced weaponry, and high-value prisoners beyond the Outer Rim in case he met his demise. With preparation that far in advance, and with his knowledge of essence transfer known, my theory is that he tasked Kamino with creating a clone for the purpose of essence transfer, or to at least begin studying if it's even possible. Now, the reason why the Empire doesn't know of Omega is left to be unsaid. It could be because of Omega and Nala Se's growing relationship, and again, the dissension between the Empire and Kamino. These factors forced them to lie about the success of creating a Force-sensitive clone, leaving Palpatine to his own means. Whatever the case may be, Omega possibly being a Force-sensitive clone means big things for Star Wars. As mentioned before, Omega may fill in the huge gap in Palpatine's revival, allowing the Bad Batch to be the savior of the sequels, much like the Clone Wars was the savior to the prequels. Many of the stories told in Legends could be retold in canon, introducing more Force-sensitive clones down the line, maybe even in shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor. This is a theory I hope becomes fact because I'm already way too excited about all the possibilities this could bring. Now it's your turn. Do you think Omega is a Force-sensitive clone, and if so, was she created for Palpatine? Do you have your own theory? Engaging with you is my favorite part when it comes to being a part of this fandom, so please leave it all in the comments.